Okay, good Erev Shabbos from Yerushalayim. For you, it's the early in the morning. Um, we're up to Daf Nun Beis, and We're starting from Nun Aleph on the base, a few lines from the bottom. So we've been discussing if a woman sells her property, if the man sells the woman sells the property to the man. Now we go to a different subject. Tan Rabbana. Ein mekablan pikdonos. You can't accept a pikadon. Pikadon usually is someone entrusted to what something. So if you can't accept something, someone who wants to entrust you, leimin anashim from women, leimin avodim nor from an evet kanaini, leimin atanoik is not from a child. So if somebody has something to hide, it's in their jurisdiction, and they're living with somebody, and they want to go ahead and ensure that somebody doesn't know that they have something. A very good way of doing it is to go ahead and give it over to a shomer to watch. So therefore, there would be no question. No, where'd you get that from? Well, there's no that because it's not there. So these people, if you're a shomer, you should not go ahead and accept from a woman, from an eved, or from tinoikis because we're chayish that perhaps it's not theirs, and therefore you'll be facilitating an avera. So do not go ahead and do that. So this is all the chatchila. What is the chatchila? Kival mina isha. If b'di'eved you did accept from the woman, and then what? Then yachshel isha says the Rashbam v'loy lebal. They ain't learn lachsika b'gneva. So we're not machzika as a ganav. It's a suspicion. So she gives it to us, and she wants it back. You give it back to her. You don't go ahead and say it's not yours. Right? She gave it to you. You give it back to her. Don't make a chesh minus. What about an eved? Right? Kiba v'im and if the woman dies, yachsil baila, you go ahead and give it back to her husband. Mimanav shach. If it was stolen, meaning it wasn't hers, it was the husband's in the first place. And if it was hers, then her husband inherits her. So mimanav shach, you give it back to him, not a shaila. Kibul mina eved. If again you accept from an eved something, in that the baal doesn't, someone gave it over to something that ain't the baal shusba, and yachsil eved, you go ahead and return it to the eved. You go ahead and return it to the eved. Then mace, then yachsil rabbi. If he dies, there's no manushach over here because what he doesn't inherit his master. So we're going to say, it says the Rashbam, the mistama kol mashikon eved kon rabbi. Minastam, whatever an eved has usually belongs to the master. Again, you don't have to both sudden return to the baal because the baal doesn't inherit his eved. But mistama says the Rashbam, the Torah being that you go ahead and return it to the master because mashikon eved kon rabbi. Okay, so we dealt with the case of lechatchila by a woman. By an eved, we dealt with the b'di'eved by the woman, and the b'di'eved by the eved. What about the cotton? He said b'di'eved you should not go accept it from the cotton. Kibel min cotton min aleph. You do go ahead and accept it from the cotton. Yaseloi segula. Then you go ahead and make a segula. We'll see what a segula is, but you're a shomer. He gives you something, and again, it's only chashad that it's not his. But as a shomer and he's a cotton, there's like an Indian to be shomer that there's something returned to him. And that's going to be accomplished by making a school, which the Gemara will explain below. The mace, however, if the cotton dies, Yafsali Yarshav, you would go ahead and be machzerit to his Yarshim. I guess he doesn't have a father. Again, I think the machloikas between the Torah and the Rashbam, whether it goes over here Yarshav, and therefore the case would be the cotton is not living in his father's house. There's somebody else with jurisdiction over him. According to the Torah, Yachzalav, because he was living in his father's house, and Mechayish Daban, he's taking something from the father. And all of them, whether it's the woman, the Eved, the cotton, says at the time of their death, Shel Ploini Hain, they belong to so and so. The Yasa Kipirushan, you do according to what they tell you. So the Chavis is Shverlecha. What do you mean? Dafka, if they're dying, you say? What happens if they're alive? They can do whatever they want with it, right? They can go ahead, as we said before, if you can return it to them, so they can do whatever you want with it. So Rashbam explains. It's just learning why they would go ahead and command you to do something. Generally, if a person is alive, they'll take care of themselves. But if they're holding by death's door, then we assume that they can't take care of themselves. So therefore, they would give it over to somebody else. Because when they're healthy, if they want to return it to their master, then they take it from the hands of the person entrusted, and return it to the master, the husband. Why should they go ahead and say anything? So therefore, they would go ahead and who to return it to. Of course, they can't do it themselves because they're holding by dying. So Yasa Kapirusha, and you do according to their explanation, you give it to whoever they want to say the Gedul. The Imlav. Now, if you're suspicious, perhaps, that this person that they are, now there's three pshat, and we're going to go with the first pshat of the Rashbam. If you're chayish, that this person, they're not trustworthy, this Eved, this Isha, this cut, they're not trustworthy, and you don't trust to say give it to, then Yasa Pirush the Pirushain. And then you go ahead and make a parish to their parish, and you give it to who you think it should be given to. Let's see Rashbam. Yasa Pirush leperusha. Kloimar. V'imloy mehimna lehu nifgad shehekodin shel oisei pliny. If the nifgad does not believe the bekodin belongs to so and so, in other words, Ella shel bailim shel hemhu. In other words, it doesn't belong to them, but it belongs to what? Somebody. Umitoich bushas eina roitzim loy mashu shel bailim. They're embarrassed to say that they stole it, and therefore they don't say that. Talilachsiku b'kikas lanim b'ganovim. Yasa nifgad then v'ganov yasa nifgad pirish acha lepirusha sheyachs levaleiim shel elu loy loy seplini. Okay, so what you'll do over here is you'll go ahead and return it to what to the not to the Pliny, right? So what does it mean according to Rashbam that Yaseh perish the Pirushay? They're mefarish to give it back to so and so. But if you're chayish that doesn't belong to so and so, but because why? Because they took it from the husband and they were too embarrassed to say the husband or the owner or the whoever the jurisdiction the cotton's under. Then you make a pirish to Perusha and you give it back to the original owner. That's the pirish to Perusha. So again, if there's no chashad, whatever they say, you go ahead, give it to the person they said to give it to. But if there's a suspicion that they really did steal it, and you're chayish that it's not the person that they commanded you to give it to, then go ahead and return it to the original. Again, whoever jurisdiction that the cotton is under, or the Eved's Adin, or the woman's husband. That's a pirish. There's no other pshat over here. Actually, excuse me. To be sayu the Rabbi, 4 lines up from the top. To be sayu the Rabbi Bar Kana, the wife of Rabbi of Kana, ki kashachvas, she was dying. Umrah, she said, Hani kipi, these I think they're earrings. They're some type of jewelry. They're Marta. They belong to Marta. Now, this is not Marta by basis of Bayesheni fame of the richest woman in Yerushalayim that we discussed in Daf Nun Vav. This in Gittin. This is a man, as Rashbam says, it was the brother of Reb Chia. He's a Chacham, Shem Chacham, Abu Reb Chia, Ubnei Barta and his children. But she said, the wife of Rabbi Chana, they don't belong. This is who they belong. They don't belong to me. They belong to them. Asla Kamei the Rav. They came in front of Rav. Amalei Imehim Lecha. If you believe her, then Asa Kipirusha. Then go ahead and give it to Marta, the children of Marta. If you're suspicious, then Asa Pirush the Pirusha. You make a Pirush the Pirusha, as we said, and give it, I guess, to her husband. If the person that they said to give it to Marta or Bere Barta, then what? Then if they're wealthy, then and it's right for if they're wealthy, they have these keep them. I guess they must have been of substantial substance of wealth. Then Asa Kipirusha, then do what is according to what she decided for you to do. Give it to Marta or Bere Barta. Viloi Asa, if they're not wealthy, then Asa Pirush Perusha, you go ahead and give it, I guess, back to a husband according to the first pshat in Rashbam. Mina cotton yasa school, going back over the Baisa, we said that what? Lechatchila, you shouldn't go ahead and accept a picotton from a cotton. Again, the suspicious it doesn't belong to him. However, if he dies, then yasla skula, not if he dies, but you don't return it to him if he wants it. He gives it to you. Even makabel for cotton, you make a. If you makabel, you shouldn't do makabel from the cotton lechatchila. But if you did, then go ahead, and make a skula. My skula, of Krista, Amar Sefer Torah. Go ahead and buy a Sefer Torah. I guess you must have some substantial picotton. Buy a Sefer Torah like this. You'll have the keren because the Sefer Torah exists, and you'll have the payers that they'll go ahead and learn from the Torah. So in a spiritual skula, Rav Huna Amar Dikla, buy a palm tree, because you'll have the keren, you'll have the tree existing, and you'll have the payers of the tree. So in other words, Yatsa Skula means you're a shomer. You want to go ahead and obviously give them back something. So put the money not in something possibility that you'll take a loss. In other words, don't go ahead and play the stock market. Don't go ahead and buy commodities. Don't play something that what there's a shiloh you'll lose something. Go ahead and invest it in something that what is a guarantee, as close as a guarantee as a tree could be in the Sefer Torah. Put your money in that. So again, going back to the Mishnah and Beis, stuff in Beis with 10 blot later, going back to the Mishnah, that the father can't be master in the chasam of a son, nor the son of a father. Amr Yosef, afilu chalkoi. Even if the child and the father have divided, in other words, he's no longer living al shulchanoi, Rav Yosef's of the opinion that nonetheless there's no chazaka if the son is on the land for 3 years with saying he bought it, or the father's under 3 years. I guess that he says it doesn't make a difference. They'll be meichel each other. And Rav Amma says no, chalkoi, loy. If you go ahead and divide it, then no, we don't say you can't make a chazaka. But in a chinami, if you're on the land for 3 years, and there's no hamacha, since you divide it up, then what? You're like any other person, any other Joe, and you could make a chazaka. Amr Rabbi Yirmiyah, midifti, Rav Papi uvdach chalkoloi kirava. He went ahead, not like Rabbi Yosef, but he did like Rava, that by father and son, one of them had been machzik in the land for 3 years. No one said anything. He came and claimed the land, and he said it's shalashanim. He had a taina. You were macho. I lost the shtar. Then again, uvda. These are halacha l'maisa situations. And over a papi paskin in such a situation, it's not hypotheticals. They talk really happen. So he paskin like Rava that cholku you could make a chazaka. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, ishtoyli Rav Chia a Hurmiz Ardashid, Rav Chia from the town of Hurma Ardashid, who I heard from him, the Shtoyle Rav Acha bar Yaakov, and that heard from Yaakov Rav Yaakov, Mishmeid Rav Nachman bar Yaakov, in the name of Nachman bar Yaakov, Cholkula, like Rava, that if they divided it up, then in fact you could make a chazaka. The Hilchasa Cholkuloi, the halacha is Cholkuloi, that if they divide it up, he's not eating on the shulchan, you could make a chazaka. Tanya Nam Yehochi, a Baisa substantiates this. Ben shecholak v'ishtaish niskarsha, a ben. Here's a raya from the first part of the brisa. A ben that divided from his father. He's no longer being sustained by the shulchan of his father. Anisha that is divorced, and now they have property, and they're making a claim that they bought it, and they don't need to have a shtar because after 3 years, harihink shar kolodam. They're like anyone else, and they can make what a chazaka. The woman can negate her husband, and the son can negate the father, or vice versa. Itmar. Okay, now let's say a father dies. He leaves over children, sons, and someone is going to be Isaac, the oldest brother per se. We have placed in Shas, he would get dressed up, he would get more, he's entitled to more because he's going to be more presentable in Bezdin. He's the one has kind of power of attorney for everyone else. He's kind of taking care of the mishpacha. Now, this is a very interesting case. So basically, all the money belongs to all of them. They haven't, and there's no bias. They haven't divided it up yet. He's taking care of the estate, and lo and behold, he has shtaros saying that he sold the land. He has a shtar says someone owes him money. In other words, he has side guilt coming in, and these shtaros are not mentioned the whole family. These shtaros are made out to him personally. So the shaila over here is, do the Yorshim have a taina that money that the shtar is made out to him is he used their money and therefore they're entitled to the piece of the action? Or no, do we say that he's of course taking care of his brothers, but that's a side hustle that he has going on and therefore it's his? Now the question of who has to bring a raya? Does the older brother have to bring a raya that this money is his money? Or no, do the brothers have to bring a raya that not? Now, each one has a taina. The one that the brothers have a taina, that where did he get money from? In other words, in order to go ahead and buy and sell and borrow, you had to have money. Where could he have gotten money from? It must be from the estate. So if you can prove the money's not from the estate, then of course it's yours. Conversely, the brother is muhsik. Why? Because he has a shtar. The star says that him, this brother, no one else sold it. This brother, no one else lent, and no one else. So each one has a mila. One has a in the koyach hataina. The brothers have a mila in koyach hataina. Where else could he have gotten money from to invest and to bar and to lend? He has a taina, then I have a shtar made out to my name and not to yours. So who to bring a raya? This is the machlokes Rav and Shmuel. Let's approach the Gemara. Itmar, Echad min ha'achim, shohaya noisav v'noisav b'teichel habayis. He would go ahead and take care of the business. V'hoya oinois, there was shta mechirois, ushtoris, shta halvois, yoitzin al shemoy. They go out and his name. V'amar, shali heim, these are mine. Shenaflu li mibeis abi abba. You wonder where I got money from? It came from my a guy. They had different mothers. This came from my maternal grandfather. My maternal grandfather. You had what? We have a common father, and Enochanami Yerusha goes after the father. But I inherited this from my maternal grandfather, and that you have nothing to do with because your mother and my mother are two different mothers. Okay, that's pshat. So therefore, that's where I got the money from. That would explain him having money for a side business has nothing to do with the estate. Amar Rav, says Rav, Allah lehevi raya. It's upon him to go ahead and prove that the money is his, that he got it from somewhere else and nothing to do with the estate. Ushmul, Amar Shmuel says, no. Allah achan lehevi raya. Since they have a star, they're muchzik in a star, right? Then he's muchzik in a star. Then it's upon the brothers. It's incumbent upon the brothers to bring a raya. So again, as I spoke in before, each one's got a mila. According to Rav, right? According to Rav, the mila is the mila of their mila is where to get the money from. So you're tiny, you got it from a maternal grandfather, prove it. According to Shmuel, he has a mila, he has a star. Go ahead, heavy raya that money for the star was from your state. So again, who's the bigger muhsik over here when we say hamoitzi mechaveiroi? Rav says it's the brothers. The brothers have a bigger taina, and Shmuel says no. The older brother has a bigger taina. Amar Shmuel ever says Shmuel moideli Abba. Abba is moide to me. Just a very side point who Abba is. Look at Abba. The Rashbam is Meirich. Rav, Abba is Rav. Kacho Yishmai. That was Rav's name. Kidi Korile B'Shchita Schulin, as we see him as Per B'Shchita Schulin, Daf Kuf Lamed Zayin. Abba Aricha. We called him Abba. He must have been very tall. The Aminan Man Reish Sidra B'Bavel, who's the head of the Seder in Bavel, is Abba Aricha, the greatest Amoyer in Bavel. The Aminan Masech Nida, Rav Orach B'Doirahayu. Rav is the Orach, the long one, the great one in his dar. Behind the Korile Rav, his name was Abba. Why they call him Rav? Says the Rashbam, fascinating. Kemoshe Koirin Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi, Rebbe Eretz Yisrael, like they called Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi, the Rebbe in Eretz Yisrael. Korile Nami Bavel Rav. They called him Bavel Rav. So it's very fascinating. We always find, I point out to you that an Amoira in Eretz Yisrael, that Smicha is called Rebbe. An Amoira in Bavel is called Rav. Rav Chista, not Rebbe Chista. Good. The one Amoira that we sometimes Rav and sometimes Rebbe is Reb Zera. He's Rebbe Zera when he's Eretz Yisrael. Why? Because he's in Eretz Yisrael. And he's Rav in Bavel. So it's interesting that in Eretz Yisrael, the leader of world Jewry was Rebbe. And in Bavel, the real leader of Babylonian Jewry was Rav. Similar. Very geschmack. Pointed out to me by my son, Simcha Sheyichya. Amar Shmuel, Moideli Abba, Shemeis ala Achen, if he dies, that the older brother died. So again, Rav said the older brother has to bring a raya, and Shmuel said that always the brothers have to bring a raya. It says Abba, Shemeis ala Achen lehevi raya. If the older brother dies, now it shifts the need to bring a raya. It shifts from the dead older brother to the younger Yarshim. Says Rav Shpam, why? Shemes v'yesh banim liyarshay, and he has sons to inherit him. Ala achen lehevi raya. Then it's not upon the Yisraimim, the older brothers Yisraimim, to bring a raya. Rather, now it shifts to the brothers, which Shmuel said initially. It always was by the brothers. The kimin the yasmi lav b'nei asuya raya nenu, since Yisraimim are not bakant in the business holding of their father. They can't go ahead and look for reasons that it's his. The gam hashtar mochiach shohayamam and shel aviyen. That's always again that's a raya says Shmuel that it's on the brother's to bring a raya because he has a star, right? Then Shaymam al Avin Lehevi Raya. Okay, so that's the Rashban. Okay, so he wants a taina Shmuel that even though Rab holds the older brother when he was alive has to bring a raya to establish that there was no where he got the money from to go ahead and make Sai Parnasa. If he's dead, then the Yarshim don't have to, his sons don't have to, but who has to bring it? Because they're not expected to know what's going on. It brings chusim, but it's upon the brothers. It shifts. That's what Shmuel says. Now, big kash on this. Maskal Rapapa, Klum Tanin Lahu, Liasme, Midid Loitoyin Luavuin. Now, if their father said, no, you brothers have to make a claim, make a raya, according to Rav, you'd be wrong. So what are you telling me? We're going to go ahead and say the assignment could go ahead and say you brothers have to bring a raya? The assignment's koyach hatayna can't be stronger than the koyach hatayna of the father. And just like their father, it'll be incumbent upon him to bring a raya, where he got the money from. So too, right, it will be incumbent upon them. You can't go ahead and claim that what? You have to bring a raya. I have a star, bring a raya. That star was around when he was alive. You can't be tying for Yisoimim something you couldn't be tying for the father. Since Rav holds for the father, the star doesn't help. You need to bring a raya to the money where you got it from. Who are in the Yisoimim? So therefore, says Rav Papa, I disagree with you, Shmuel's assessment that Rav Abba would be murdered in this scenario. And he brings proof, right? But Rav Afik Zuga de Sarbala, the Safra Dagarata Miyasme, Rabba collected some type of shears, or some type of scissors to cut wool or comb, the Safra Dagarata and safe swarm of Agarata from Yisoimim below Raya. Even though usually a person's muhsik, it's theirs. Rava will go ahead and take it out. You know why? Because it's bidvar masuyim lahashul lahasker. I can explain how it belongs to somebody else and it's in your rishus. Again, the fact we always speak about anything that's in your rishus is yours, and the other person, that's dafka by something that is normally not borrowed or rented. If it's borrowed and rented, it could explain why it's in your rishus and it's still not yours. So since a zuga de sarbala and sifra de agarata are something that would be go ahead wide and be lent out, we don't. And now he collected it from Yisayim. He didn't say that that you have to bring a riot to collect from Yisayim. He said just like the father of the Yisayim, right, couldn't hold on to it because it's something that he's not muhsik because it's the varm lahashal lahaskel. So to Yisayim we won't hold on to it. We won't be tying the Yisayim amid base. Okay, the shalach Rav Huna bar Ovin, the varm masuyin lahashal lahaskel, bam lekuchnim biyadi, something that is borrowed or rented out, and they tie it, it's l'kuchni biyadi, and a muhsik in it, and it's mine. Ain't an emma, the Yisayim won't be believed. So what do you see? That we don't tie it for Yisayim. So that's the kasha that Rav Papa has on what? On Shmuel's assessment. Where it says kasha nachlaim, it's a kasha. Now normally we always learn kasha the following. We say kasha, you'll find the teretz. A tuyufta, that's gone, you're finished, it's over. But it's a knockout punch. But kasha, you'll find what? You'll find the teretz. That's the normal way to learn. Very sadistic Rashbam over here. Says the Rashbam, kasha, the didon kasha, amaya mishmuel moideli abba. Pasuk Rav Chananel, the hilchos of Shmuel, okay, let's skip this. A few lines down. Kol hechadami begamara tiyufta, the pliny tiyufta, batlu devarai, mishit tiyufta alav. It's completely knockout punch. Aval hechad the also kasha, where it just ends up as a kasha ki hach the Shmuel, that you have a kasha and Shmuel from that fact that Rava went ahead and took out from Yisayim Zug Sarbala and the Sefer Dagarata loy batli devorav. We don't say that Shmuel's words are batal. It's not so clear that it's batal completely. They didn't find the question at the time, the Talia V'kaima. Okay, so that pretty much is the way we always learn. I don't have a teretz right now, but you could have a teretz, right? And so there's no teretz. Listen to this fascinating Rashbam. I don't agree with that. The loishna tiyufta v'loishna kasha. There's no difference between a tiyufta and a kasha. They're both knockout punches. The Rashbam does not learn kasha means you can find a teretz. Zuchzaka teretz. No, it's a knockout punch. The koya al milsa damaroi. It's going on the words of kasha is going the words of Amroyim. Kodehi plehabi ikar el gabe tiyufta mishnah or mibraisa shaykh lemit tiyufta. So in other words, it's fascinating that when in this case we're asking on Shmuel a kasha from who? From a memra of Rabbi. So that's a kasha from Rabbi who's an Amoira on Shmuel. Then we'll say kasha. Where, however, the kasha on the Amoira is from a Tana, then we'll go ahead and say Tiyufta. Something good to the memory bank. The next time we have it, a Tiyufta or a Tana, let's check out. There's a big Rebbe Kiva Egi here. I didn't get a chance to look it over. I assume he's going through different places which would question Rashbam's Pshat. Fascinating. Rav Chisda. Okay, so Rav said it din. What was Rav's din? That the raya rests upon who? On the brother to go ahead and bring a raya. It rests upon the brother to go ahead and bring a raya. So Rav Chisda loishanu that it rests upon the brother to bring a raya, the older brother, Ella the ein chalukin bisasan. They didn't divide even up a little bit of the dough. In other words, they didn't begin to divide the estate. If they began to divide the estate, al chalukin bisasan, even just a little bit, they began to go ahead and divide the estate, then Amor, I will say, kimates. He went ahead, and he put together money from the whatever he got from this, literally the dough, excuse the pun, and he went ahead and he made some more dough, right? So then we could explain why he would have cash. Says Rav, even though you have a star made out to your name, since you can't explain where the cash came from, you have to prove it came from your maternal zayda. Okay, that's great. That's great. However, if there is a reason we can figure out where the money came from without, then there's no need to go ahead and figure out a maternal grandfather. You could say it came from since we began to divide the estate, whatever money he got from that little division, he invested. He was a Savvy investor, right? And he went ahead and made a few bucks. Then he doesn't have to bring a raya. Then they would have to bring a raya. That's when it shifts. That's when it shifts. Okay, so raya b'mai. What raya? Again, this is it could. You see Rashbam why it's Rav and not Shmuel. Says Rav, and what's Rav's raya? Whose buddy you bring your raya to? So fascinating. Rabbi Omar raya be'edim. He has to bring a raya be'edim. How he get that money? He'd have to bring a raya be'edim, how he got this money. In other words, where the money come from. Rav says that what? Rav says that what? That you have to bring a raya. What's the raya? So raya be'edim, that it came from his maternal grandfather. It came from a friend who gave it to him. In other words, they have to bring a raya how he would have money exclusive of the estate. How he had money exclusive of the estate. It's upon him to bring a raya. That's Rabbah. Rav Sheshes Amar, raya became a shtar. So he says not as severe as Rabbah. Rav Sheshes says if you go ahead and bring a raya, in other words, you go ahead, take the shtar of the mechira or the halva, go to Besdin, have it authorized by Besdin, that would be enough of a raya that there was side money involved. That the fact that it was written, that's enough. So one says you have to bring a raya to the cash, the start of the deal. The other one says no, if you have a shtar, just bring a raya to the shtar, the shtar, that it's a good shtar, and therefore it will be okay. Therefore, it'll be okay. So Rabbah says there's the money source. Rav Sheshes says the shtar. Only Rav Nachman. Rav, Shmuel. We have Rav, we have Shmuel, who argue whether who's the raya upon. Rav Chisda, who explained Rav. Mar Kiman Svirle. Who do you hold like? So Rav Nachman, as we saw earlier, he was like Shmuel when it came to Dini Maminis. And so Rav wanted to know from his Rebbe Rav Nachman, who do you hold like? Some later Nachman told him, I know a Mishnah. The Tanya, he brings, I know a Brisa. The Tanya, Echem min Achem. Shoyin Noisim v'Noisim b'Toich Abayis, this older brother. Well, and he has this side deal. He has shtar mechiros that he sold something, or a shtar alva that people owe him money, right? Avi Ima fell from my maternal grandfather. Allah raya. Like Rav, it's upon him to go ahead and bring a raya like Rav. Now it doesn't say what raya, like Rabbi says you have to bring a raya if we're on the money, or if Sheshes the money on the star. It doesn't say what the raya has to be. What the din is that it's incumbent upon him to bring the raya. It doesn't say what raya, but it's incumbent upon him and not the brothers to bring the raya, like Rabbi. The isha she a woman who is dealing with the financial issues of the house, what's going on there. She's dealing with raising kids. She was not Petropis, this woman. She was, I guess the husband was not around anymore. She's not Petropis in charge of the estate. She's taking care of business, and now she has a side hustle going on the side, right? She would have to bring a raya that what came from my maternal grandfather, I based Avi Ima, or from my maternal grandfather. Although Levi Raya, she has to bring a raya, right? She has to bring a raya. My v'chein. What's the chiddush of the woman? It's that what's the chiddush in the woman over a regular case that you had to say v'chein and bring it in? If you bring it in, there must be an inherent chiddush right in isha, or else why waste your words? Says the Gemara. I'll tell you about the chiddushes. Now the tema isha kiven the shlicha lanilsa. Since it's a shvach for her to be an apotropis, going to court, go to business, she's a place of prestige for her to be ongoing in charge of this estate. I would say that what since she was tareh for the same, she's not going to steal because again it's good for her to be in this position. Kamash on that what? No, she could steal. If you look at Taisus is fascinating. The second Taisus is the bottom. The tircha kame you ask me, Emaloi Goslam you ask me. Let's say you didn't steal from the assignment. Kashal Rashba. The Adarabba. The high time of the tircha kame yasme, Goslam yasme. The fact that she's matriach for the assignment, she's moira heta to steal. We had it in Ashaleach, right? The fact that a person's working and they feel that I'm entitled to it. Kumir, even though it's gesela, but kumir. So what do you tell me that they shouldn't steal? She definitely would steal. So what do you mean you don't have a half minute she would steal? So it's about who I know the Torah Kami asked me that I know that she's going ahead and be Torah for Yisayim. Asylo or Rebet, she should come to go ahead and be Ma'ara. The Tiritz, the Hanami Kami. That's what the Gemara is saying over here. The Loy Amin and the Loy Gosla. You don't say she didn't steal. Ela Adraba. Asylo Rui Kinam begin. So what's the Lechain? Lechain is very geshmak. By a regular person, there's okay, the Chiddush is that it's upon him to bring a raya, he has a star. By a woman, the Chiddush is that you would think that there's no way in the world she took. Why? Because it's chashiv for her to do it. Kamash Malon that she would steal. Why would she steal? That's the Gemara in Gittin, as Taisus points out. Since she's being toireach at the assignment, she'll be moirahet and say it's not gazela and she'll take. And therefore, it's upon her to prove that the money that she made as a side issue over here, where it came from as an inheritance, in this case, she'd have to prove it. Says the Gemara. Okay, you have to go back to Mem Beis Amud Aleph, the Mishnah, guys. You have to go back to Mem Beis Amud Aleph. Why does it say a Mem Beis Amud Aleph? Holmin vapu shutvin varisin vapu tropin elem chazaka loy leish chazaka b'nechsei ishtav leishav chazaka b'nechsei bayilov loy lav b'nechsei ben v'loy b'nechsei b'naav b'med v'mamurim b'mechazek aval b'neisim matana v'achen shacholku v'machzek b'nechsei ager no v'godo poretz. You open the door, you close it, you breach a fence. Kol shulcharizu chazaka. So what exactly is this going on? It doesn't flow very, very well, as the Gemara asks right away. Read the Gemara Kasha. The Medvam Amurim, the Machzik Avo Benoisim Matana Va'achin. We said, and that Noel together. Read the Gemara. The Mishnah says you're making a chilik between a Machzik, between Noisim and Matana. To call Hani Damiran, all those that we said above, right? Noisim Matana, Achem Shacholku, Machzik B'nechsei Ager, Lav B'nechazaka Ninu. Are they not shaykh by chazaka? Each one of guy gets a matani, shaykh b'chazaka. All these people are shaykh. They're not apotropsin. They're not arisin. They're not shutafim. They're not umnin. Those people not. But a person who receives a matana, a person brothers who divide, a person's nachzik when is yager. If they're there for 3 years, of course they're bnei chazaka. So what do you mean? So the havamina is the chazaka under discussion in this latter part of the Mishnah is the same chazaka we've been discussing until now. But as we're going to see, that's not what's under discussion over here. It says, so again, Atukol Hani Damiron, the Achen, the Matana, the Nechsei Ager, Labene Chazaka, they're not shaykh to Chazaka, it's not possible. And for the Gemara, the Mishnah is missing words, and here's the way I have to explain it. That what does that mean? When do you need 3 years? That's dafka when bechazaka sheishim a taina. That's by chazaka. We have a taina against the person who's being ma'arer. Like you're going moiche oim eloi machartili, v'lekeach ama lokachti. So the moiche says I didn't sell it. Lekeach says I bought it. So then you need 3 years. Al chazaka sheinim a taina, but a bal karka who's moida that it's his. In other words, no question. It's yours, matana. I sold it to you. There's no question over here. Then kigoyin noisim matana. If you give him matana, there is no question. Or v'achen shchalku, there's no question. They divide it up. Or machzak v'nichsei ager. The ger died. It's hefker. He goes ahead and gets it. In that case, you do not need what 3 years, but just the mikleim alma. All you have to do is a kinyan over here. And what would the kinyan be? Shenoal. You open the door. You put a lock on the door. Or godar. You made a fence. A poretz kolshu, or you opened it up a little bit in front of Edim. That's a chazaka. So it comes out the latter part of the Mishnah, when it says med mamurim, it says med mamurim that you need 3 years. When do you need a discussion about a chazaka 3 years, as well as previous cases? But by kabel matano or achem shacholku or machzep g'nefsei ager, in those cases you don't need 3 years. All you need is the chazaka of what? Of kesef shtar chazaka fame, right? Of Gemara in Kiddushin, of the Mishnah in Kiddushin. Tani Rav Oshia b'Kedushin the Bei Levi, a brisa Masechta Kedushin that Levi learned. Right? It says v'noal gadar paratz kol shu b'fanav harisu chazaka. You kind of the karka. So if you go ahead and do any of these 3 actions, this is all chazaka in front of the owner of the land. That would be a chazaka, right? So mashma that what it has to be b'fanav in shalai b'fanav loy. That there's no way that chazaka helps shalai b'fanav, so it has to be b'fanav. Amarava, so l'chayre is right now. Says the Gemara, it's a question. B'fanav in shalai b'fanav loy, chazaka is chazaka. So Amarava hachikam. Here's the way you read it. B'fanav leitzarich l'meima leich chazik ukni. In other words, there's a gemira stas over here. Person is going ahead and be machning something to you. So the fact that you're doing a chazaka has to be accompanied by the fact that this person accepts your chazaka as a kinyan in his field. So if it's b'fanav and he's watching it, it's unnecessary to say something. The fact that he's there and not saying anything connected it, and there's money going to be transferred, then it's a good chazaka. So b'fanav, like tzarech l'meim, you don't have to say to him, leich chazik ukni, go make the kinyan chazaka on the base. Shalai b'fanav. However, it's shalai b'fanav that he's in one place and he sells you the land and he's making chazaka. In that case, sarach, you need the meichel l'meimale to tell you leich chazik ukni. Go ahead, what, and acquire this, and then he's going to das. But until he says leich chazik ukni shalai b'fanav, it would not be gemir das that a kinyan is taking place, and you would not be kind. Shevon, good Shabbos from Yishlayim Kodesh. Again, apologize for the early hour, but I've got a lot to do today.